So this is one of those claims I have a position on. So I'm going to have to really do a good job of keeping it to myself. See how well I do. Okay, so we're going to explore this claim here. The U.S. Congress should legislate an age restriction of 16 for access to social media platforms. On one, I want you to move to the position that you hold on this particular claim. 3, 2, 1, and move. Disagree. Agree. Slightly agree. Okay. U.S. Congress should legislate an age restriction of 16 for access to social media platforms. Maeve, why do you disagree with this proposition?
I disagree with it because although, people state that there are harmful things of children being on social media due to their self-confidence, bullying, stuff like that, I don't think that the social media platforms in the way where like teenagers especially like view themselves, I don't think that social media impacts that more than other types of media that wouldn't be banned, such as like film and TV. And I think that it's a really unique way to get kids and teenagers involved in things that they might not like have access to, even like stuff like news. And I think the only thing that really like can damage them, it's like comment sections on their own posts, which I do think maybe could be like changed and restricted, but I don't think the entire platform needs to be to have an age restriction.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you agree on this claim?
Age restriction on strictly social media platforms. I don't think we should limit access to technology to people under 16 years of age just because our daily lives are now like they revolve around technology so much nowadays because they like it's just so convenient. You can have like access to information, to different types of useful information, but also misinformation and all the harmful stuff. And I feel like with proper professional media controlled by like regulated firms or companies, um, the type of content that is displayed and to get to the children uh, are generally safer than the stuff that you might see on social media because regulations are less strict and social media companies are just mainly concerned about making profits, getting clicks, getting viewerships for their ad deals and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I just think that there should be a better content filter so that people under the age of 16 or 18 will have like more healthy content to consume.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you have an example of unhealthy content?
I would definitely say that uh, there were studies that if children under the age of 18 who consume porn are more likely to be addicted to it in the young age throughout their life. So I think that is like one example of how it should be limited. Uh, yes.
Okay.
Just to add on to unhealthy or like unhealthy content, I want to like mention short form content. It's everywhere nowadays, and it seems like it's becoming more and more popular. I remember back in the day, like a few years back, TikTok seems to be the only big app that was kind of like the forefront for this type of content, and then after that, Instagram and then Facebook followed that because it became a trend and everybody wanted in on it. So people were like, let's do it, and now it's everywhere. And it seems to be like the main type of content on social media nowadays because you can cram a lot of stuff in, and it gives people. And there's been studies that links short form, the increase in consumption of short form content to increase in ADHD and other like difficulties in concentration. And I feel like when for children or for young adults from the age up to 16, when especially when their brains are developing, they should spend a lot more time consuming or like um, read a lot, like consuming deep content and try to understand something on just like go below the surface level. Try to understand as much as possible about one topic rather than like catching glimpses of a million types of things. If that makes sense.
Okay. So we had some new participants join here. So let me go ahead and repeat the claim and just make sure we're in the right place. U.S. Congress should legislate an age restriction of 16 for access to social media platforms. Am I understanding right that you're standing on disagree? Okay, and so John, you're on disagree, and where are you going to shake out?
I think I'm gonna go here. So just
Slightly disagree?
I think so.
Okay. Can you go ahead and give us your reason why you currently hold slightly disagree? Why do you think that?
I'm a little
If you could
conflicted.
get closer to the mic too, that'd be great.
I'm a little conflicted.
You can.
I feel like
Yeah, just speak up just a little bit.
I was very young when I got social media, and I think there's a lot of pros and cons, so it's hard to say for sure. I think there's a lot of bad things that come when young kids join social media at a really young age. Actually, so I'm gonna move here. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you can change your mind. Are you going to stand on slightly agree?
Slightly agree, yeah, sorry.
Oh, wow.
But I also think that there's a lot of like formative things that like there's a lot of access to good content and good information and stuff about the world that you can find on social media.
So you're weighing the cost and benefits, and you think there is benefits, but that the costs outweigh the benefits slightly. That's what you want
yeah, yes,
to make you slightly agree that it should be banned.
yes.
Okay. John, you're on disagree. Why do you hold the position that you do? Why do you oppose this legislation?
16 seems kind of high for something like that, and I don't know if that's really something that should be left to the government. Like, I think I messed around, made like YouTube videos when I was like 12 or something, and it was fun to do with friends. And I just don't really think it's definitely bad for kids, or it can be, but I don't know. This seems really strict, so
Okay.
I'm not a fan.
Why is it strict?
16 is like pretty old,
Okay.
I think. Like maybe if it was like younger than that.
Okay.
That'd
What
make more
would be more reasonable to you?
I don't know, like 10 or something. I don't know.
Okay. Do you oppose any age restriction whatsoever, or was there like a age threshold for you, Maeve?
I hadn't entirely thought of that. I do agree though, 16 does feel like absurd. Like, I mean, who would any of us be without our middle school obnoxious social media age? I don't know how I would have gone through it. So, but like, I mean, 12 makes more sense to me, but I still wouldn't agree that that should just be put on by the government, that
Okay.
type of legislation.
Does anyone here know what the average age for starting social media is?
Really 8 years old.
I would guess 12, closer to 12 than 8.
I don't know.
Say 10.
Does YouTube count as social media?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Oh, then
Absolutely it
I've
does.
seen a lot of iPad kids
Yeah.
around, and
Yeah,
They're, like,
totally.
I'll say 6.
they got on iPads before they could even speak. I don't even understand that.
I'll say the average is 6.
6?
Including YouTube.
Okay, so no one knows for sure?
No.
Am I allowed to introduce facts into this?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I want that.
Maybe ask if certain facts, how that would cause them to shift.
Okay.
Like what?
I know the answer, but I'm going to withhold it.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us after?
Yes, sure. I'll tell you afterwards. Okay, so what sort of maybe would knowing the average age at which someone starts social media? Okay, let me ask it like this, and I'll ask it. We'll go around here. What evidence or information would you need, Maeve, and for your position on disagree, to make you less confident in your position, and maybe be not move all the way over here, but move one line, at least slightly disagree. What would make you less confident in your position? What
Facts.
evidence?
Okay, facts and evidence are exactly what like I need. It's not based off of opinion for me.
Okay,
I'm not
what
going to
kind of
sway like
facts?
that. But the type of facts would be exact facts on how it negatively influences them. Like based off of just like my own knowledge of the circumstance right now and like my own experiences and people that I was surrounded by. Like I had a generally good experience in social media even at a young age, so that's like what's swaying me right now. But to be exposed to the other side of it, like more of that experiences in fact would definitely sway me.
Is it fair to say that a lot of what's informing your position on this is your personal experience?
Yes, absolutely. Not only just my own but people around me.
Do you know what type of facts you would need, or because it's very general? Like what kind of
Studies
information? To
or-
demonstrate what?
to demonstrate the harm
Okay.
of being under 16.
Okay. Since you agree with this proposition, do you have that evidence that you can supply me?
Off the top of my head, no, not really.
Okay.
I don't have specific data. I don't have articles that I can point to. I just have mostly just observation from daily life, and also from what I heard and what I read on the internet.
Mhm.
But it's also it's not like there's any like concrete evidence that points out that access to social media before the age of 16 is the direct cause to this or that, or the decrease in ability to focus, decreased attention span, whatever. All I have is links and correlations, and that's it.
Mhm. Okay, so if it's not facts and information that is convincing you, since you're unable to supply it over here, what is it that is keeping you? What is it that's convincing you to be on agree? Is it just the general sort of observations around you in everyday life? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw. It looked like you might have some evidence you can.
No, well, not
Or
really
would you-
evidence. I was
okay.
just supporting him by saying that to do a study where you want to know the effect of a person who don't use social media until 16
Mhm.
and a person who used it when they were young is a very long time, and it's might be unlikely to be able to achieve a study, I guess. Do you agree with that? Because-
You can ask someone over here if they.
I disagree with that. Just like I'm a psych major and I've learned about many studies that can take place over a course of 30 years or more. So I don't think that it's not possible. But it is totally possible that since social media and the age of social media is totally newer, that's why those types of studies aren't out yet.
Yeah.
It's also
Oh, sorry.
no.
Yeah, but then if they were in control of not being able to use social media, but then there will definitely be a fact where their colleagues got social media and they don't have, and thus they have the desire to have one. Don't you
Right.
think?
I was talking about peer pressure. Like, what happens if all your friends are on some sort of social media and you're not? You feel like you're falling behind on that kind of stuff, and you feel like you might be ostracized in society, and it has that negative mental effect.
So it's better to limit everybody instead of letting the one kid be left out.
You could say that.
Well, let's hear from John, since you're on disagree as well. What are your reasons for standing in there, and what?
All right, I'll just stand by slightly disagree, but for disagree.
Okay.
What was the question?
So, what are the reasons you hold, and what would it take for you to move from disagree to slightly disagree? What evidence would you need to hear to move? I'm going to ask the same thing of these folks too, but we're going to start here. What would it take you to be less confident in your position to disagree?
I
What
would say
evidence would you
try
need?
other things first.
Say again.
If they like tried other methods first, because this seems like a pretty radical way to deal with this. I don't know if it really worked. Like maybe you could like turn off certain parts of social media, like Instagram. I know I spend way too much time on Reels, and I wish I could just like get rid of that. And I think, like, oh my gosh, if I was looking at these things when I was like in middle school or high school, that'd probably not be good for me.
Okay, so if I understand right, you're saying, it sounds like you're saying you acknowledge that there's harms associated with social media, but this is not the way to fix it. Am I
Yeah.
hearing you correctly? Am I understanding
yeah.
you correctly?
I agree with that as well.
Okay. What harms do you recognize and think that there are, if you do think there are harms?
Wasting time.
Okay, so time, wasting time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say just how it shapes your opinions overall,
Okay.
especially when you're just being flooded with stuff and algorithms. And then there's also just like mental health stuff.
Okay.
But I just don't know too much about that.
Okay.
So I guess I would need to see like more strong trends of like it really impacting mental health.
So time wasting, mental health. What was the third one?
I don't know, how would you say it? Like, just like shapes your opinion like too much. Like it sends people on like pipelines, whether
Yeah.
it's like alt right or alt left, and then just like conspiracy stuff.
False
So
news.
say
Yeah, stuff like that.
reduce social media literacy.
Yeah.
Do you think that social media contributes to polarization in modern political culture in the United States?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
When I think about the dangers of social media, that's what I more think about than the mental health stuff. But
Okay, so
I could see why other people would focus on the mental health stuff, especially when you're talking about age restrictions.
okay. All right, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to ask. You agree with this proposition? What would it take you to be? What would you need to see? What evidence would you need to see to be less confident in your position on this claim? To move from agree to slightly agree.
I would say that I agree that there should be some sort of age restriction on social media use, but I wouldn't say that. Now that I think about it, I wouldn't say that 16 is the age. That maybe some like younger age, maybe like I'm talking 14, maybe
Okay.
13.
So you'd be open to changing the threshold.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
but like I still think that social media, early access to social media and content and early access to social media is definitely a negative thing. Has
Okay.
negative effects on a person's development.
Mhm.
So like I'm still absolutely for age restriction. Just not 16, I guess. So does that mean that I should move to slightly agree then? Should I? I mean, for this specific claim, 16, then yeah, sure. I might go ahead and just go over here.
Childhood developmental psychology is
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of the factors of consideration here.
And then how you're able to kind of socialize with other people as well. So yeah.
I need reminded on your name. Help me.
Julia.
Julia, that's right. Okay, Julia, why? What would it take for you to move from slightly agree to neutral on this claim?
I think the thing that's keeping I don't know. I feel like facts, evidence that there isn't like a large impact on mental health, but I just feel like there already is a lot of evidence and like studies that show that it does.
So you would need to see evidence of non-harming
Yeah, and
for use of social. So
Yeah.
harm
Also-
is a big thing here. I think on both sides of the of as we contemplate this here. So does
Also-
anyone here have any familiarity with any studies or any information about evidence for harming or non-harming? Does anyone here? Okay, so we'll do both of you. Well, actually, Juliet, continue where you were.
Well, do I need to know like the name of the study
No,
or
I mean,
exact?
just
Okay, yeah.
whatever
Well,
you can remember.
There's been a lot of data about how social media impacts, like especially from a young age, like young girls, like ideas about like body standards and like appearances and how that really negatively affects them as they grow up because like so many things are fabricated on social media to like look perfect and they aren't. Like it's hard to understand that when you're so young. That's definitely I think been confirmed, but
So have you read or encountered some studies, or is this from your own observations? How did you arrive at that?
I did a project on it senior year
Okay.
of high school. I don't really remember it too well, but I just know I saw a New York Times article about it that I used. as,
Okay,
like,
so
my source.
at least one New York Times article that you drew from.
Oh, can I?
Yeah,
Comment on it?
absolutely.
So, I actually did a project freshman year here,
Mhm.
in a body positivity class, writing class, that I read a very similar article. But I also, I just believe that the more knowledge you have, the more power you have over yourself and understanding. And there's so much information that you can learn online through social media platforms, through people's personal experiences, that can make you feel less isolated when you're dealing with your own body type. Like, you know, not knowing if you're the only one that looks like this, have this problem, have cellulite, stuff like that. Like, young girls and everybody learn about this type of information, especially if they don't have someone in their life that's giving it to them, like a older sister or a mom, that type of figure that typically passes down that information. Social media can be that, and it can provide that information, especially when people are feeling vulnerable and feeling alone.
So
So there's the people that are showing false things
Mhm.
that can harm, but there are the people that are being completely transparent and true to themselves and to girls that is doing great.
So it sounds like your contention is that social media provides access to role models for young people that are not fully confident in themselves, and the access to these role models helps them achieve greater confidence.
Yeah,
in
I
themselves.
absolutely agree. Even this summer during the Olympics, there was that rugby player, Alona Mar or something, that she became so viral because that was her entire mission, was to invoke confidence in young girls, and by like talking about her own body type and her experiences and her fears and doubts and all that, and people responded great, and you know, she became viral and is even on Dancing with the Stars now because of how well that was received and how inspiring she was.
Okay, awesome. Now I'm thinking about what both, especially Juliet and Maeve, what you've shared with me, and I want to ask both of you a question.
Mhm.
Both of you did projects.
Yeah.
And both of you had in it a very particular question that you were trying to ask in those projects. And you went pretty deep with that on those projects. Do you think that those projects may have shaped your view for where you stand and potentially have kept from you from, maybe perhaps have you ignored other questions that you haven't gone into? And I'm asking this of both slightly agree and disagree. Do you think those projects may have had a large impact on shaping your view for the issue, and to what extent do you think?
It definitely like had a large impact, but I started off the project being neutral, not knowing much information. And I made up my own question. I then did research on both sides, and it was like a 12-page paper, and like 8 of those pages were what I ended up doing it on, and the other 4 pages were a counter argument. So I do feel like it definitely shaped my opinion, since I have all this research and made my own opinion from that research based off of which one I thought, just resonated with me more. But I have a lot of the other information as well, so I don't feel like I over focused on one and didn't focus on the other, if that makes sense.
Definitely played a big. I mean, like I was probably before, or I was probably more for like social media. Like if before I did that project, I'd probably be standing over there, and then I mean, I'm on slightly agree, but I am kind of neutral. Like but I definitely do think that project shaped why I'm standing here, because like seeing all those like numbers and data like convinced me, I guess.
Now, one question I think I'd like to ask of all of you is, if we're going to do proper analysis of the epistemological grounds of what we know, what other questions would you need to ask and answer to get a more robust understanding of whether this is an acceptable policy or an unacceptable policy? What sort of questions would you need an answer to? It might not be fast come to your mind, but yeah, Juliet?
Like how like foolproof the ban would be. I mean, like obviously this is a strict ban.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, sorry.
I think how foolproof the ban would be, like those systems with like, because I remember there was an age limit when I joined Instagram for the first time, and I was under the age limit, and I just did a different birthday, and it was like very easy. And I think that's still the case for like a lot of social media and websites, but I mean it is a strict ban, but like I would just wonder like how thorough I would need to know that. Yeah.
How effective would it be?
Yeah.
And how it would be enforced.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because one of the things in terms of thinking about this is who has the responsibility for any harmful effects, assuming there are some, that may come from social media. And we could say, is it the child? Is it the parent? Is it the school? Is it the community? Is it the government? So there's many different levels we can contemplate the responsibility at here. And we've just picked one, the government. And so you might say, no, this is not the government's responsibility, this is the school's responsibility, or all the way down to the child. It's their responsibility to moderate their behavior. John, I haven't heard from you from a bit. What else do you think you would need to know to change your confidence in either direction, either slightly disagree or strengthen your position and strongly disagree?
I kind of like the government to do something. Like I don't think it lies on the parents or like the school as much. I just would need to see more evidence that this would like actually have an impact, instead of like fundamentally changing the way social media platforms work.
Do you think that the harm demonstrated would have to be what level of significance? Because we might say, oh, there's a low level harm, of course, right? So what would be like an example to your mind of a harm that would fit or not fit to this particular thing?
I think it would have to be severe. It couldn't just be like a lot of a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't know the best way to measure that.
How about anxiety?
Anxiety would be a good way, I think.
Okay, so if anxiety is a harm that emerges, do you think the government is responsible, or do you think that you would still disagree?
Yeah, I think the government would be responsible.
Okay. What about suicidality?
Yeah, if that was like really going up, sure.
Okay, if you saw suicidality, would that? If you saw, let me ask this. So, if there were evidence for greater suicidality, would you change your position that way?
Yeah, I'd at least go to slightly disagree.
Okay, and let me ask on this side, if there were no evidence of suicidality, would you still hold the position that you hold? Is it other harms that are convincing you, or is it that major harm? What is the harm that you have in mind, Julia?
Mental health for sure, but also
Mental health?
just like I feel like even if there was no evidence of like suicidality, is that what you said?
So yeah, the risk for
Then-
suicide.
But that doesn't mean that it's still not affecting people's mental health like very severely, I think.
Okay. Mental health is broad. So what do you have in mind when you think of mental health?
I mean, I think of like what I was saying about like body image, like
Mhm,
of
okay.
bullying. I think of just like self-esteem.
Okay, self-esteem, body image. What would it take for you? What evidence would you need to see to move slightly disagree?
Well, I'm still I slightly disagree.
Okay.
Well, I don't think I think will still hold my claim that there should be at least some kind of filter or restrictions. But yeah, I cannot be neutral on the fact that people should have the freedom children should have the freedom to use social media platforms.
Okay. I'm going to try one last thing. I'm going to let everyone reset to neutral. I'm going to change the claim slightly. Erase Congress. And I'm going to change this to parents. That parents now have the responsibility. I'll need to change this. I need to change the word legislate. That doesn't quite fit. Parents should not allow their children to use social media until 16. So we're just changing the agent of responsibility here. Then I want you to move. Maybe nobody changes their opinion on this. I don't know. But let's see. So if you could, move to where you believe on this. 3, 2, 1, and move. You could come in a little bit closer so I can see where you're going to be. Okay, so neutral, slightly agree. Are you on slightly agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, John, you moved the most from disagree for the government having responsibility to slightly agreeing that parents have some stake in it. The parents do not allow their children to use social media until 16. Why do you hold that position?
I think if it's going to be the government, it should be something less all or nothing. But for the parents, I think that's fine for them to make that decision.
Okay.
Because it's more case by case basis when it's parents. So.
Okay, so there's a little more freedom to allow case by case in this case. Okay. Whereas a government ban would be more universal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Juliet, you're on slightly agree. Is that right? Okay. Why do you? You haven't moved.
Yeah.
But do you have a different reason for staying on slightly agree?
I mean, I think it's totally within parents' right to decide that for their kids. I feel like, um, now that I'm thinking about it more, it's like it. I feel like it probably is more their right to do that than the Congress or government. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay. Maeve, you've moved from disagree to slightly disagree. So you find this more palatable?
Yeah, because of exactly what they said, like more case by case basis, and that it's the parents' right to do that. But I just don't think that they should. That's what I
Okay.
disagree because it says parents should do this, not that they can.
Okay.
Um,
What do you think parents should do? What is your position?
I think that setting that age restriction just right off the bat, like, I don't know, I think that parents sometimes move slower. Like, I don't know, it's like things change so fast.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's harder because, parents are very busy to understand everything that's going on that, especially around social media, they might not understand. Um, so I just feel like they sometimes don't know everything when they make those type of bans or decisions. Especially for an age restriction like 16.
Mhm.
Because they're, especially like, okay, if it's like my parents, their experience as a kid, they didn't have that, but they don't know what it's like to have that as a kid either. So I think it's complicated, I guess. But
Okay. And Chien, you're on neutral now.
Yeah.
Why
So
is that?
I just think that I also agree with them that it happened case by case. Um, I just think that they cannot fully control their children on whether or not they do search do have social media or not.
Mhm.
Because in my case, my parents do have a little bit of restrictions on for social media for me.
Mhm.
But the thing is, um, I can still like go all the way around to use it. So that doesn't really help, I guess. They can put the rules, but we could go the other way around. But I think that the government, who has a higher power, can impact more on the frequency of usage. I think.
So you don't think this will
Yeah,
be
I don't think parents is
terribly
effective.
effective?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that because there would be sort of uneven application?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It sounds like you're convinced that there is harm, um, and that the better of the two possible solutions or policies is from the government level. If I remember right, you were on slightly agree or agree?
Yeah, I was on Slayer.
Okay. All right. I think we've done a good job here. I don't know that and I do like to end by at least at saying, is there anything else that folks would like to say that they haven't had a chance to say yet on either of these claims?
Well, I just have evidence about the suicidal.
About what?
About so
About
like,
suicide?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us.
So of like 10 years ago or more, there was a trend called whale, I believe, and people were cutting their hand with a whale. While some survived, but many people actually died because of the trend. So I believe it's a kind of like a domino effect due to social media spreading the information.
Is this the self-cutting trend that you're talking about?
Yes.
I saw, Juliet, you were nodding your head. Are you familiar with this?
yeah, it was like this internet. I don't even know what it was. It was like there was a bunch of steps, and you have to complete each step, and you had like some it was just like a little. I don't even know if it was even. I think it might have been on like Tumblr, like one of those like old sites.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember seeing stuff about that, and it was like really bad. But yeah, I think there are good restrictions. On, like if that were to happen now, like on TikTok or like Instagram, like it would be, like it wouldn't, the spread wouldn't be as wide as it was. I think then because like the company would probably notice it and shut it down.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us here. Go ahead and just wrap it up there. So. They're all very soft spoken.
So what's the average age?
12.6.
Really?
Yes.
Does that count YouTube?
I'd have to go look at the study again. I'm happy to share that study with you if you would.
Seems like it would be like
I guess like kids, like their parents join and they just give them their iPad.
Yeah.
So
just to kind of shut them up.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a nanny. I was a nanny for summer. Guarantee I did that. Guarantee.
Yeah. So easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I've read a lot about this topic, so I don't know how well I did.
Where would you stand?
Do you know where I would stand?
You wouldn't know, would you? Or would you?
No.
Do you know what my position is on this? Okay. All right. Good. Maybe I'll keep it to myself still.
Why? It's just me. No one else seems interested. I am.
It kind of gives us an idea of how well he was able to ask questions without injecting the bias.
Yeah, totally. But I want to know.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually agree with the proposition.
Yeah.
I would probably stand there.
Okay.
Unagree.
Unagree. I'm a little reluctant to stand on strongly agree for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm sure there could probably be some claims.
I think there are some, like, it's much fewer things I would stand on a strong there.
But even if I were standing on strongly agree or disagree, I would probably still have in my mind a margin of doubt.
Yeah.
But, you know, it would be like if this is 75% and this is 100%, it'd be more like maybe 90 or 95% where I would stand.
If you had more intervals.
Yeah. So I think thinking it up as, you know, it's a Likert
Likert
scale.
scale.
So,
Yeah.
it doesn't give you as many gradations as say a 0 to 100. Yeah.
Oh, I know all about Likert scale. Many research studies.
Yeah. Did you study statistics?
Yeah. I've done.
Okay. Oh, you were talking about statistics in class.
Yeah, I've done many forms of statistics.
I might actually have something that. So I didn't say it in class yesterday, but we're going to read something later this semester that might make you rethink one of the things that you said the other day yesterday in class.
If I remember that.
I'll give you the clue what it is, and we're going to read about Bayesian reasoning. Have you encountered Bayesian? Okay. So that might complicate your understanding of statistical reasoning. Just a little bit. There are Bayesians, and then there are non-Bayesian folks too. So, but I think a lot of people.
Sorry, I'm late. Time for my photo shoot.
Yeah.
Right on time.
Yeah, that's going to be later in the semester. I think the chapter reading we read does have the formula in it, but for the purposes of this class, I'm not doing any math. I just want people to understand the general principles of what to pay attention to and pay attention to those things. That's all. All right, thanks for stopping by.
See you.
Can we do a quick minute or so just debrief on the day
Okay, sure. Are you still
Yeah,
recording?
we're still rolling.
Okay. Where do you want me to stand?
This is fine.
Okay.
So how do you feel now? Like, you've been rocking it all day,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that your brain is kind of tired at this
Mhm.
point. I'm just curious as to like any feedback.
Hi, Dr. Pinkerton.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Are
You just missed the show.
Yes, I guess that just maybe feedback's the wrong word. What are your impressions? Did you reach your goals today?
Honestly, I didn't even set any goals. I'm just like, oh, I guess I did. I mean, my goals outside of anything, just generally what I'm trying to do on college campus right now, inside the class, outside of the class, is give students the experiences to communicate with each other across their differences. That's sort of the thing that I want to do. And they don't have to agree with each other or arrive at any consensus. They just need to get the experiences of interacting with each other across differences. Because I partly worry that that is a skill that is lost to the mist of time for some folks. So I want to give them those experiences to communicate with each other in and outside of my class, and that's one of the reasons why I did that here. So in terms of actually facilitating this within the principles of street epistemology, I cannot be certain whether I followed the principles fully. I've done my best to try to get students to engage in self-reflection as well as remain a neutral facilitator. And then also, you know, if we're going to ask questions of epistemology, it is to get people to self-reflect on the grounds upon which they know things in the first place. I don't know how much I got them into that thinking, to be honest with you, but maybe I need to self-reflect better questions and better tools that I could use in the conversation. I don't know.
How would you tell if you did do that?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That's fair.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I mean, maybe shifting, and we did see some shifting happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some shifting, change in confidence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And having a better grasp on their reasons
Mm-hmm.
and saying them out loud. We were talking a little bit ago, how like there's a different part of your brain that processes what you say out loud versus what's in your head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that can kind of inspire some reflection just by using a different part of your brain to process the information.
Yeah.
And then when you can go back and watch and see what you missed in the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
that can be pretty enlightening too.
Yeah.
And it only brings up the idea of like in my everyday conversations,
Mm-hmm.
how much am I misunderstanding people?
Yeah.
The grocery store, you know, whatever. It kind of raises the awareness of how much we probably do misunderstand each other. So, any other thoughts that you want to share about what happened today? What is there anything that you would change?
The only thing I would change is get a little more experience on one-on-ones. Because I did this all day.
Yeah.
But that
I was hoping we could get one interview where you interviewed somebody one-on-one, because it's a different experience.
And I think I would have liked to have seen my students facilitate too.
but we didn't get around to that.
Well, we have footage.
Okay. On the one-on-ones? Okay, okay.
Yeah, we have a few that were recorded, and then I did one with someone who wasn't able to participate earlier,
Mm-hmm.
Aiden.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we had some that were not recorded,
Mm-hmm.
and they were able to switch roles.
I think one thing that was happening over here I learned is they were doing their own thing and they were engaging in debates over here.
Well, there was one where they were also exploring the same claim that was happening
Mm-hmm.
in Spectrum, which was the animal testing one.
Okay, yeah. And I definitely, I mean, we were down here to do this particular way of engaging people, but provided they did something entirely different. But my overarching goal is to get students to have conversations across differences. I still feel that that met my broader goal of doing that, even though they were doing their own thing over there.
Cool. Yeah, it was completely different for me, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the setup of just the one-on-one is basically all I do. So this was a fun,
Mm-hmm.
getting out of my comfort zone and making sure that everything was kind of moving smoothly on both sides. So yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. It's been awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
So glad that you reached out and we were able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather, it just all worked out.
We got lucky. It's rained
Yeah.
rained yesterday and it's going to rain tomorrow, but not today. We got lucky.
Yeah, we didn't have to worry about sun glare.
Yep.
It wasn't really that windy.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Awesome. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up then.
Sounds good.
Awesome.